Mitesh, I've got a client that's growing. They're bringing employees up into leadership. They want to figure out a way to incentivize employees, keep them around, but they really don't want to give away any equity in the company.
Yeah.
What kind of options do they have? What can we advise a client?
Okay. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I do think that I'm glad to hear them say that they'd rather not give out equity, because we see, it's usually afterwards. We have so many of our clients that call and they're like, hey, I promised equity to, we promised ownership to this person. Then I start asking a few questions like, are they really ownership material? And do they know you've got some debt on the business that they're going to have to personally guarantee? And start going through those things like, no, or I don't know. And so there are definitely other options, I think. And I would probably classify those other options of ways to reward your managers, employees, put under management incentive plans. Now, you don't have to be management necessarily to participate, but these management incentive plans are and some can be equity, but really I think of them as being non-equity, quasi-equity, something else. So two of the more popular ones that we tend to draft around here, one is phantom stock.
My client mentioned that.
Oh, yeah.
So I figured phantom stock might be one.
I love phantom stock. I mean, I think it's great because it mirrors real ownership and equity in certain ways, but not in others. So in the real ways is that they're getting the employee who gets granted some phantom stock, they get to participate in the overall value of the business from the moment it was created until the point that it's sold. And then when a company is sold, then that employee essentially gets the dollar equivalent of however many shares or interests that they were given, in the company. Some of the advantages of that for the business owner is that the employee's not getting real equity, right? So they don't have access to the books and records. They're not getting taxed right away. They don't have any voting rights. And for owners, those are usually things where they're like, we'd rather keep a little closer to the vest. Sure. I think the positives on the employee side, they don't get taxed up front. Whenever they do get taxed is when there's an actual exit and they're receiving some cash. They don't have to, as owners do, if there's any debt on the business, they don't have to sign on for personal guarantees.
That's nice.
If there's a capital call at the business, they're not a real owner, right? They're not getting a K1, so they don't have to worry about that sort of thing. Now, there's something that's very similar to phantom stock that we like to talk with our clients about. It's called a stock appreciation right. It's also, it's non-equity. It very much mimics real equity, but the difference between phantom stock and stock appreciation rights, as the name kind of implies, a stock appreciation rights. You're benefiting in the appreciation of the ownership of the equity from the moment that it's given to you until there's an exiting scenario and if the company is sold. So essentially the company is allowing you to participate in the value that you're adding to the company, not what was built prior to them. Unlike phantom stock, which starts kind of at the foundation and gives them the benefit of the full value of a company that's built. But similar to phantom stock, it's not real equity, so they're not getting taxed when it's granted to them. They don't have to, they're not getting a K1, there's no separate reporting. And again, all of the converse benefits for the company apply. Applying that scenario. Now, I think one other thing that they may want to consider is a profits interest plan. Now, that is real equity. And so, just like real equity, the employee would be getting a K1. They may have other rights, right? They're going to be signing on to an operating agreement or shareholder agreement. Hopefully the company's got that. But with this, they're really only getting distributions as they're made, and then ultimately when the company is sold, they get to participate in that final number. But really, profits interest plans are intended to capture and reward employees when there's profit. So often we'll see those coupled with like a threshold because these companies are wanting to incentivize certain employees to meet certain goals. So sometimes it'll be a sales threshold, a profitability threshold. Sometimes it's an expense, ceiling. Hey, we don't want you to exceed this in expenses, and if you do that, then you're going to get rewarded. So profits interest is another great way to do that. I think all these things should be thought about and perhaps coupled with a cash bonus plan. Now, employers may go, what the heck? You're saying to give them this and to give them this, but the cash bonus plan pays out more immediately. And like it or not, Americans, even, you've probably seen this, like our high earning executives, many of them are still paycheck to paycheck. And so, we often say, look, if you really want to reward an employee, ask them if you think you can have that dialogue with them. What do they really want? But if you don't want to do that, try to make it where they get a little something now, a little something later. And a little something now is bonus. It doesn't have to be cash bonus. It can be other things, additional paid time off, a vacation, certain other, hard assets if you want to, but really, cash is king. And so we'll often encourage our clients, like, hey, do something where they're going to get something now, and that shows that immediate benefit for their efforts now. But give them that thing that, hey, if they really strive for it, they're going to have a huge exit and get a big pop one of these days.
Now, my client's got about 25 employees.
Yeah.
Are any of these plans better suited for somebody with 25 employees? Are they for fewer? Are they for 50 to 100 employees? What do you see?
It's a great question. It can be applied to companies really of all sizes. And I do think economically, it needs to be a company that's got a certain size, call it 10 or more. But that's not a rule, right? That's just the economics behind it. Can the company afford to do it? What do legal fees look like? All those sorts, the level of sophistication of the client. Can they actually keep up with the paperwork and stuff? And as you know, we've seen clients, maybe they can't, So, but I think that's one of the, one of the bigger things for them to keep in mind and consider.